Chapter 12, The Wicked Wolves. Fernwood Forest had changed in the months Mona had been at the Heartwood, even since her adventure with Brumble. Except for the evergreens, the trees were now mostly bare, and the ground was cold and hard on Mona's paws. Plants and flowers had tucked themselves away, and the stream was flowing slowly, gurgling. Winter's near, it's almost here, winter's near. Yes, the forest had changed, but Mona had changed too. Before, she hadn't minded the slumbering, slow forest as long as she had some food and a place to sleep. Now it felt so lonely and cold and quiet. Already she missed the warm, mossy carpets and the chatter of the guests, the smell of the seed cakes and the song of the swallow. She missed the hotel. But she couldn't go back, not only because of the rules, which truthfully she didn't regret breaking, or how she'd left rushing out, which already she did regret, but because she wasn't wanted. Tilly had made that clear. And so Mona trudged on, looking for somewhere she could sleep. The daylight was fading, and she tried not to think too much about the first snow festival and all the excitement she'd be missing. When night arrived, she found a hollow log and clambered inside. The log was damp, too damp to make a good home, but mostly protected from the wind. Mona curled up beside her suitcase and traced the heart with one paw. Her stomach rumbled, and she took out one of the seed cakes. Only one, because she wanted them to last. As she nibbled it, the taste brought back a memory. The smell of toasted seed cakes with acorn butter, and her mother's voice. "Seed cakes for my sweet Mona." The picture in her mind was fuzzy, but now she was certain her mom had made seed cakes for her. Seed cakes that tasted exactly like this. But how had she gotten Miss Prickle's recipe? Now Mona would never know. She had ruined her chances of finding out. Her appetite disappeared, and she couldn't finish the seed cake. She put it back, touching the heart once more as she closed the case. She shivered. If only she had a cup of Miss Prickle's hot honey tea. She was just closing her eyes to dream of one when she heard a voice. "Any time now, I reckon. And then we feast. Scrumptious squirrels, heavenly hares, meaty moles." The voice sent shivers up and down Mona's spine. "Ah, shut your trap," came another voice. "You're making me drool." "Me too." "Me three." And then a whole chorus of them chimed in, yesing and yipping and pawing the ground. It was wolves! Mona clutched her case tight and kept very, very still. When the yipping ended, one particularly gruff-sounding wolf said, "The plan had better work." "Of course it's going to work. We wait till we see the lit-up tree. The tree with lights, that's the one. More than enough animals in there to feed our pack and then some." But the gruff wolf continued, "Something's going to go wrong. I just know it. I don't like all this waiting, Gnarl." "Waiting is better than chasing jackrabbits, Wince. Did I tell you about the time I found that mole clubhouse? I wasn't hungry for a week, I say." "How can we forget with you wearing that badge around your neck like you're too good for us?" "So what if I do, Wince? What's so bad about being a little more refined?" "We don't need all that fancy stuff. We just need our noses and our teeth. Besides, it's just a myth, this hotel. And we could have been hunting now instead of meeting and planning and waiting." "Well, if you're so eager, Wince, then why don't you just go back to the Great Woods? It'll leave more for us, more for me." "You're sure you're right about the lights?" "I told you, yes. I've heard rumors about the Heartwood. Lots of rumors. I'm right about the lights. They're supposed to be lit when the snow falls. It's getting colder. Should be soon. And when they're lit, we'll find it. It's around here somewhere. The Heartwood Hotel." "Heartwood. I like the hearts. They're tastiest," broke in another wolf. "You're too bad," said another. "A big bad wolf." And the wolves began to howl again with laughter. Mona trembled all over. Slowly, carefully, she peeked out through a hollow knot in the log. It was a whole pack of them. Some pacing, some lying down, licking their paws. Moonlight glanced off sharp teeth and eyes yellow like fire. She could see the one, Gnarl, who was wearing the mole's badge. It was hanging around his neck from a ribbon that was tattered and maybe even a little bloody. Mona crouched back down in the hollow log, her heart beating so fast it was a hum. That's why wolves had been roaming nearby for months. They'd been searching for the Heartwood Hotel, waiting for the lights to be put up. She had to do something. But before she could do anything, one of the wolves, the one called Wince, barked, "Hey, shut it! I smell something." Mona froze. Ah, you're crazy. No, I smell something. The sound of sniffing filled the air. Mouse meat, I'm sure of it. Mona dared not move. Even her tail was as motionless as a twig. She heard the padding of the wolves' paws as a few more got up to join Wince. The sound of their footsteps came closer and closer. This was it. In a moment they would find her and gobble her up, and there would be no one to warn Mr. Heartwood and the others about their terrible plan. And then, just when she was sure it was all over, "Give it up, Wince. You're just imagining things. All the tasty treats are in the hotel." "But," grumbled Wince, "I tell you, all the animals are there. That's where they all go this time of year. And that's where we'll find them." "Fine, Gnarl," muttered Wince, and Mona could hear him lie down with a thump. "I guess even my nose is hungry." "We're all hungry," replied Gnarl, "but soon we won't be. Soon the Heartwood will be ours. But not tonight. I'm going to get some shut-eye. I suggest you get some sleep too. Rest your stomachs before the big feast." Again the pack agreed. It wasn't long before the yeses and yips turned to grunts and snores, and Mona felt her heart begin to slow again. But it was only after the wolves were completely quiet that she took another peek. They were asleep, a mass of gray and black. Carefully, she tiptoed out of the hollow log and crept around them, barely daring to breathe. They were so close she could smell their vile breath and see the drool dripping from their fangs. Once she had passed the last one, she began to run, faster than she ever had before, toward the Heartwood. Chapter 13. Tilly Tells the Truth. Mona had never scurried so quickly. She followed the stream this way and that, all the way back up to the hotel. The moonlight glimmered off the water, showing her the way. She reached the tree with its huge canopy of branches and the tiny carved heart, just as the sun was beginning to awaken, stretching its rays across the forest. Mona didn't hesitate. She opened the door and dashed inside. There was no one in the lobby. The guests must still be sleeping, thought Mona, but the staff would already be up, eating their breakfast. And so she scampered down the stairs and burst into the kitchen where, as she expected, the staff were all gathered around the kitchen table. "I saw wolves!" cried Mona. Everyone stared. Tilly stopped fidgeting with her food, her mouth open in surprise. Mr. Heartwood looked at Mona stonily, but Miss Prickles smiled and said, "You're back, dearie." "Now where in the forest did you—" started Mrs. Higgins. "Hush now at once," said Mr. Heartwood. "Miss Mona, please go to my office or take a seat. Your stories must wait. First we eat." "But Mr. Heartwood, Mrs. Higgins, Miss Prickles, you have to listen. I saw wolves, a whole pack of them." "Hush, I say." Mr. Heartwood was looking more and more agitated. "The hotel hasn't been found by wolves yet. Why would they now be a threat? The wolves don't even frequent Fernwood Forest." But they have been seen nearby," stammered Gilles. "I heard a guest discussing—" "Enough!" bellowed Mr. Heartwood. "But you have to believe me," cried Mona. "If this is about Miss J, I thought we welcomed all guests here." "As we should," said Mr. Heartwood, his tone suddenly softening. "And from now on we will. I was concerned small guests might be in danger from large paws, but instead of taking the time to make proper accommodations, I was a fool and made a rule. That must change. No excuses." After a pause, he continued, more sternly now. "But there's another matter here, Miss Mouse. By leaving without speaking to me, you broke my trust and your pledge." I, stammered Mona, trying to explain. But the explanation came from Tilly. "It wasn't her fault," cried Tilly, leaping up and knocking over a bowl of honey. "It was mine." Everyone froze, even Mona. Tilly's tail twitched behind her head. "It was my fault Mona left. I tricked her. I said she had to, that she would be fired." "You did?" humped the Badger. "Please explain." "Indeed," said Mrs. Higgins, rubbing her nose furiously. "I'm sorry. I thought that sooner or later you would choose her over me," Tilly gulped. "Mona was doing so well. She soothed the skunks and the swallow and rescued us from the bear." "You did, dearie?" Miss Prickles looked over at Mona, impressed. Mona nodded, blushing. Tilly continued. "She did. She talked the bear into leaving. I knew but didn't say. She's a good maid, a better one than me. And if she says there are wolves, then we should believe her." Tilly's speech left the room silent, except for the plop, plop, plop of the honey spilling over the edge of the table. Mona couldn't believe it. She tried to catch Tilly's eye, but the squirrel didn't meet her gaze. At last Mr. Heartwood spoke, but it wasn't to Mona or to Tilly. It was up to the ceiling, as though he was speaking to the hotel itself. "So the wolves have found us at last." "No, they haven't," piped Mona. "Not yet. But they will. They know about our lights. They are watching the forest to see which tree gets lit up. Then they will come, unless we do something." "But what, dearie?" said Miss Prickles, whose quills were flared out, though her voice remained calm as always. "What can we possibly do?" Mona had no idea, but Mr. Heartwood did. "With no lit tree, there's nothing for them to see. We simply don't put up the lanterns." "But what about the party? The lighting of the hearth?" said Mrs. Higgins. "All this work. The guests are expecting—" "No fire," said Mr. Heartwood with a worried look. "The smoke will rise and catch the wolves' eyes." "What about the food?" said Miss Prickles. "My ginger cakes? My acorn souffle?" Mr. Heartwood looked increasingly troubled. "No feast either, I fear," he said, shaking his head. "The delicious smells might draw the wolves near." "So, no festival then, Mr. Heartwood?" said Mrs. Higgins, her nose redder than ever. "First the summer festivals, and now—" Mr. Higgins placed a comforting paw on hers, and she almost smiled. But then Mr. Heartwood said, "No festival. This is serious. Hurry, before they wake. Place notes under the doors of all the guests, informing them at once of the change in plans. Dear guest, we regret to inform you that the first snow festival has been cancelled. There will be a meeting in the ballroom this morning for any questions. The Heartwood Management."